Now we're going to focus on the use of punishment. Positive punishment involves delivering an aversive event, for example, spanking, to reduce an undesirable behavior. Negative punishment would involve removing a desired event, like watching TV, to reduce an unwanted behavior. So in positive punishment, something unpleasant is being given, is being administered, like a spanking, and in negative punishment, something the person wants or enjoys is being taken away. Now, negative punishment, the taking away of something that the person likes and enjoys, has been used to successfully treat a wide range of behaviors, including things like self-mutilation, smoking, overeating, tardiness, and aggressiveness. So negative punishment, just losing a privilege, losing money, losing access to a toy or some other type of recreational thing is perfectly useful for treating a wide range of things. We examine the effectiveness of punishment in terms of just how well it works, right? And so can you think of examples where punishment is fairly effective? So let's just kind of think about this. If you come to an intersection in your neighborhood and right next to the signal, there's a big sign that says a red light camera in place. By now, most of us know that when we see that sign that says that there's a red light camera at work, we know that if we take the red, we will more than likely get a ticket in the mail. So that might be an example where punishment is fairly effective, because you know if you engage in running the red, there's almost 100% certainty that you're going to get that ticket in the mail. Now, there are other situations where we can think of where punishment might only work temporarily. This would be, for example, if on the way to campus, as you are entering campus, you start seeing a police officer parked maybe on the side of the road. And so you become very mindful of obeying the 35-mile-an-hour speed limit, for example. However, if after several weeks, maybe months, of not seeing a police officer parked on the road, you might start speeding again. So in some cases, punishment only works temporarily. So even if you got a ticket one day coming into campus, you will probably obey the speed limit for a while, but if you stop seeing police officers, you figure you might be able to get away with it, and so the punishment might only work temporarily. Now, can you think of an example where punishment may work fairly permanently? And now I will draw your attention to this picture, kind of a disturbing picture here on the right, of a person perching a ladder where it seems really, really dangerous to do so, right? So here. Now, if this guy falls, do you think he will ever again perch a ladder like this or any other situation that seems this, just ridiculously dangerous? Probably not. So there are certain things that we've done in our lives where we have been punished immediately, and maybe the punishment has been relatively severe, and we've learned that what we're doing is just inherently dangerous. It's naturally dangerous. So we've stopped doing that. So if you've ever done something silly and almost gotten killed or gotten severely injured, you probably have not repeated it again, especially if there was no good reason to do it in the first place. And so that's the idea, that punishment can be very effective if it provides information about something just being naturally and inherently dangerous. An aspect to making punishment more successful is having alternative responses available. So punishment is much more effective if an alternative response is available. Children who are punished for playing with certain toys are less likely to play with them if they have other toys that they can play with. So you have to provide an alternative that is safe and that is to be encouraged. Similarly, dog training seems to go better when rewards are used rather than punishment, and providing dogs an alternative response, like other toys to chew on, can help them stop chewing on your shoes, for example. So if you come home and this is what you see, your dog chewing on your shoes, maybe it's because you don't have enough of an assortment of really desirable chew toys that your dog loves hanging around the house. So we can look at the situations when punishment is effective. One thing that we know is that the severity of punishment is important. It really matters. The more severe the punishment, and this is true for whether it's positive or negative punishment, whether you're yelling and screaming or spanking or just removing access to something the person enjoys. The severity of the punishment matters. The more severe the punishment, the more likely it is to suppress unwanted behavior. Punishment must also be consistent to suppress behavior. So for the police officer to be able to consistently suppress speeding coming onto campus, the punishment has to be consistent, which would mean you'd have to get a ticket every single time that you sped on University Drive. Punishment must be immediate. You must get that ticket relatively quickly. And if mild punishment is experienced first, the person may not respond even later on when the punishment is gradually increased. So you can't start with a mild punishment and gradually increase the punishment. That's not going to be a good idea. It doesn't seem to work very well. So to summarize it, some punishment to be effective has to be severe, has to be consistent, and has to happen immediately. And throughout all of this, alternative responses should be available. Now, can punishment have unintended consequences? Absolutely, especially positive punishment. So we're going to see that a lot of these really negative things only refer to positive punishment. So it is possible to get aggression if the punishment you're using produces pain. Pain-induced aggression is definitely a risk. In a study with dogs, 43% saw an increase in aggression in their dogs after the dogs were being hit or kicked as a form of punishment. So that kind of positive punishment where an animal is being hit or kicked in an attempt of using that as punishment backfires because it actually triggers aggression in a dog, something that is generally not something you want to see. So anytime that positive punishment produces pain, that is a really bad idea and should not be something that's pursued. Furthermore, punishment, especially again, positive punishment, yelling, hitting, those kinds of things, humiliation, those kinds of positive punishments also can model behavior you really don't want to encourage. It can model aggression. So children who are punished physically use the same method of punishment when they try to control the behavior of other children. So they're essentially learning from adults in their lives that if you want to get someone to do something, you just hit them. Correlational studies also report a strong relationship between parental use of punishment and the level of aggression in their child. Similar results were found with dogs as well, that dogs became more aggressive with positive punishment as we saw earlier. But remember that correlation does not mean causation, right? So we do need to be cautious anytime we're using correlational studies. But in general, those are the patterns that are found. And if you've ever heard of the American Psychological Association recommending that parents not use corporal punishment, that's why. That's where this comes from. It's that it seems to be essentially more trouble than it's worth and can lead to more negative outcomes, and that there are usually alternatives. So punishment definitely can have some unintended consequences, especially, again, positive punishment. And so that leaves us then, if we're going to use punishment, to think of ways of using the negative punishment, the removal of something that the person likes, as opposed to administering any kind of physical or emotional type of punishment.